Hi Siri, I'm looking for a new podcast, one that preferably is hosted by a UF Hall of Famer, one that airs every weekday that would bring me everything I need to know about the Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions. Siri, is there such a show?
Have you heard of PodUp with Matthews in the morning on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or any podcast platform?
Oh my gosh, why didn't I think of that? UF Hall of Famer Shane Matthews has a show every weekday. I'm gonna go check it out tomorrow. Thanks, Siri.
Ho, 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 baby. I know this is exactly the Christmas present you wanted. 7 days out. Seth Harp, Harp on Sports, in for Shane Matthews today, of course. My right-hand man in more ways than one. Mr. JC entering stage right here momentarily, of course. PodUp with Matthews in the morning. Coming to you live from the Crime Prevention Security Home System Studios. Large enough, like my biceps, to serve you. Small enough to care. You got Facebook questions. You can queue them up, courtesy of Meldon Law, the only official injury accident law firm partner of the Florida Gators. YouTube questions, courtesy of Quality Plumbing. Residential commercial plumbing services since 1984, 40 years. Emergency repair, their name says it all. And of course, via Titan MRI and that Titan MRI text line, 352-353-7465. That's 352-353-7465 via the Titan MRI text and hotline. All righty, baby, here we are. It is a Wednesday. I am off work today, JC, for the first time since August. Steve Russell, big shindig, sending him off in grand style yesterday. Took about 2 weeks to prepare that show. It was great. Started with surprise guest of Mick Hubert. Starting the festivities, ending with Steve's 94-year-old mother calling in to tell him how proud she was. It was a great day for the station. And awesome. Yeah, there we are. So what's going to happen? I can tell you this, JC, starting last night with the Frisco Bowl, the station will run 31 bowl games and over 20 NFL games the next 2 weeks. So if you love football, then ESPN Gainesville WRUF-AM is the place for you to be.
Love that.
So that's what we have in store. And a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you and yours.
Yeah.
I have my Florida Gators stocking cap on, JC, as you can see. Because I am the number one Gator in all of the land. At the beginning of the year,
all of the land,
said that they would achieve higher than their Vegas goals. I said that they would win 7 ball games. They've won 7 ball games. They're probably going to outdo me. I said everyone should be patient. I said that you need to watch the whole movie and not just shut off The Godfather halfway through, because if you shut it off halfway through, everybody's going to be dead that you like, and there's going to be no vengeance. The job that Todd Golden has done, and I think that's where we're going to start today. They're undefeated. They're going to finish the month of December undefeated, the month of November. JC, right now, expectations, probability, all of these things. I'm not a hyperbole guy, overstate things, but JC, as we count down the clock in 2024, Gator basketball fans, Gator fans in general, should expect this team to be a top 2 or 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. What say you?
Wow, that's a lofty expectations as we get through 2024, and there's nothing wrong with that. I have said, and before I go on this basketball thing, I just would like to say about Steve that in I guess it was in the 70s, before FM radio, frequency modulation, when all we had was amplitude modulation, I listened to Steve Russell as a DJ, and he was the DJ at AM 850 Gainesville. And he also, I think, worked at WGGG. Point of the story is that I remember him back from the early childhood days, and he's always been a consistent voice in this area, and I wish him the very, very best in his retirement and as he goes through his golden years going forward. Congratulations to Steve.
JC, really quick, because I want to set the record straight with a lot of things here. People keep asking, you were replacing him. Who's replacing him? What's going to happen here? What we're doing is, I'll tell you what we're doing on the station. Chuck Oliver is 2 to 4. We're just moving Chuck Oliver up to noon to 2 is what we're going to do. And then from 2 to 4, We have the Sports Lab students that do their show usually on Mondays and Fridays. So that's the format we're going to keep right now, at least through the spring and into the summer, because JC, we're getting blown out all the time with doubleheader softball, doubleheader baseball, March Madness, SEC basketball tournament, SEC baseball tournament, SEC softball tournament, SEC baseball tournament, SEC women's basketball tournament. So we lose a lot of middays. Tampa Bay Rays baseball on Mondays and Fridays in those early slots. So for the time being, we're just Chuck Oliver's going to be noon to 2, and then we're going to have games and the students do that. So the station hosts aren't changing. I wanted to say that because I know people are going to blow us up here over the course of the next hour asking what's happening. So that's what we're doing.
That was good. Good heads up there. As for these dudes last night, in the first half of that game, I think they did exactly what they wanted, keeping North Carolina out of transition, playing a half-court game, kind of taking the fast breaks away and using their long, athletic, defensive capabilities and really stymieing North Carolina. The Tar Heels made some adjustments in the second half. Florida turned the ball over a bunch in the second half. That adds to transition, of course. And then we saw the Tar Heels take the lead and make a game of it. But tip your cap to the Gators for withstanding that second half run and winning this game. It was a good win up at Charlotte, and it's an important win. And now at 11-0, you've got a firm top 10 ranking for your basketball team going into the conference schedule, which to me is a very different type of season than what we have seen thus far, because the teams will be tougher. The league is very good, maybe the best in basketball. And there's just going to be some nights when you show up at Vandy or wherever you go and you just don't have it, because conference play is that way. You're not going to Gonzaga your way all the way through the SEC. So keep your head keep your head grounded, but know this, that team is very talented, and so is this league as a whole, and it's going to bode well when the seedings come out in March, because people respect what they're seeing in the Southeastern Conference, and they certainly have Florida in the top 5 or 6 of this league. So that is a wonderful thing for Todd Golden and for his guys, and man, they are very athletic, and it's fun to watch.
And I know it was interesting. It was a Gillespie that they brought in from the Big East about 10 years ago. The SEC conference did basketball-wise, because you remember at the time, JC, I think they got 2 teams in the NCAA tournament, and that's when you had whatever the big mouth was. It Marshall? I want to say Marshall Henderson, but that's wrong. From Ole Miss, that was doing the Gator Chop in the SEC tournament. It was just overall basketball conference-wise, about 10, 11 years ago, just a bad conference.
Mm-hmm. It was.
Major
they had bad coaches.
Yeah, and
bad coaches.
They came in, and what was the first thing they did? We got to start hiring big-name coaches. You had, at the time, you had Kentucky with Calipari, and you had Florida with Billy Donovan. That's all you had in terms of quality programs. And even then, Kentucky had taken a gigantic step back. And I think that year they went to the NIT and got beat in the first round. And Florida was good, but not Sweet 16 ceiling good. And all of a sudden, you're right. They came in. It's like, we got to change the whole identity of this thing. And we're just a football conference. It's like, no, we're not. I mean, baseball wins all the time. Football wins more in its sport than any other sport of the major sports. But we can be a basketball conference. You got to find the right coach. You got plenty of money. It's not like there's no athletes down here. And I used to say this as a kid that grew up in the North. I'm like, I remember the days of Mississippi State in the Final Four. I remember the days of Arkansas in 40 minutes of hell.
Yeah.
And Kentucky winning national championships. I remember as a kid that grew up in Indiana, I'm like, to me, I don't look at the SEC as a bad basketball conference. It's a recent revelation. And then all of a sudden, this shows you, 10 years? It's almost like a glacial movement, right? It's taking this time. And JC, this conference has had the best November, December of any conference ever. What they've done, it's and that's not hyperbole. Go look at the numbers. They just
taking over. They're definitely taking over. The attention span of some of these guys, and I watch them on ESPN. The Jay Billises, the Seth Greenbergs. These guys are not used to that. They're more Northeast centric, maybe Midwest centric, and certainly Atlantic Coast centric types of analysts. The Southeast Conference, you don't get a lot of attention, and now you have to. You will, but Mississippi State. LSU, Mississippi, Florida. These are not schools that folks really spend a lot of time on any of the gambling shows or on any of the analyst shows. They just don't. It's just not something they follow. You listen to Sirius Satellite Radio, you never hear much conversation from these guys about Tennessee basketball. It's just not something that comes up. It's not. They'd rather talk about St. Bonaventure's 6-game winning streak, or they'd rather talk about how Michigan State and Tom Izzo are doing this or that, or oh my God, Rick Pitino at St. John's, what a great story. Meanwhile, we got teams down here in the South just blowing people out, including those teams I just mentioned. So I think it's turning. It's going to change. We're going to see a land shift, kind of like they do in California with the earthquakes. Things shift. And you're going to see the Southeastern Conference get a lot of attention if anybody is worth their own salt in analyzing this stuff, because you can't deny the athleticism and just the overall player ability, if that's a word, that we have in this league.
And I don't want to say it's entirely because of this, but, there's so many more basketball games now. I remember JC back when I played, in the day, the first college basketball game didn't start till Thanksgiving weekend. And now we're starting November 5th. So you've got more games, but I always tell people, you also have more college football games. The bowl games have gone from 21 to 44. And you've added the playoff, which this weekend's going to steal some of the thunder from this. But I think you're right. Nationwide, basketball wise, it's just kind of like an appetizer, just kind of hanging out there. And then all of a sudden in January, once college football's over, we start to shift a little bit. And we start to look at basketball more. But what the SEC's done here is just absolutely remarkable.
It is. And it starts from the top down.
Yes.
Coaches getting the players in these schools.
Yes. They're keeping them in-house. And the fact that the SEC, with television contracts, you're going to start paying out $100 million per school year. You get to keep the coaches in. And I always tell people, like, oh, Florida they don't need a stadium renovation. Of course you do, because you can make more money. The more money that comes in, the more coaches you can afford.
And the Shane just wears me out on that about the stadium. But he's never sat in one. He never sits in one. So why the hell would I listen to what he says about the stadiums? God bless him. But when you get everything taken care of for you, you don't worry about the fans. Well, the fans are the reason why you're there in the first place. So I'm so glad they're doing that. And I don't care about forget about the money already. We talk about money way too much on this show. Nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to get canceled. The girls' sports are going to be the girls' sports. Everything's going to be everything. The TV money is going to continue to get larger and larger and larger. College football has never been more popular ratings-wise than it was this year. So for all of the damage and all of the problems we have in college football, television is paying more out now than ever in history, and the ratings have never been better. When you get 14 million people watching Georgia and Alabama in September, 14 million? Hell, I don't even think any of the news agencies had that combined during the election. Okay, so I mean, come on, let's get real about it. And by the way, good morning to Marissa in the motherland of Italy. She's watching. Way to go, Marissa Bennett. She's watching. It says, "Good morning from the motherland." That's Italian flags flying over there. So we're happy to have her with us. And, this is a worldwide stretch you have here, Seth. You have a worldwide stretch going on.
Well, I think it's appropriate that today we name me the king of Gator sports and the king.
It is so appropriate.
I've got my stocking cap on. I'm Seth Claus, bringing good cheer to all Gator fans everywhere. All right, again. Joseph says, "Oh God, no, Seth. Reggie doesn't like me either." Greg says you need to save the show. And Reggie's going to leave.
What?
Reggie's going to leave.
Wait a minute. Are you watching the Facebook? I'm looking at the YouTubes.
You take care of YouTube. I'm taking care of Facebook.
I like
That's YouTube. Okay, because Daniel Wells says, y'all don't do that like Seth. He's all right. Hey, Daniel, here's the thing about guys like Reggie and Greg and Reggie again and Joseph. I own their skulls. Their brain's just paying rent, baby. I own them. And they're listening. They're not going anywhere. I own them. It's like somebody, I'm Visa. They're the one that's paying 22% and a minimum payment of $25 a month. I own them. All right. That should go over real well. PodUp with Matthews in the morning is a service of Comfort Temp Heating and Air, your number one HVAC company, professional and experienced technicians, keeping you informed throughout the entire project and process. Check them out, comforttemp.com. That's comforttemp.com. Comfort Temp Heating and Air. Comfort is the business. peace of mind is the promise. And it's interesting that you say this, JC, because this week, and I wanted to talk to you about this because you and I agree, there's this, oh my God, and we just saw this in November, and I'm going to tie politics into this just for a second. During the presidential race, we heard both sides, whoever wins, the country's over. The country's destroyed. The country's going to be ruined. JC, I'm still here. You're still here. It's December, 18th? We're fine. And the country will be fine. It's just going to be different, but we're going to live. We're all going to be fine. The transfer portal is ruining college football. It's ruining it. It's destroying it. Notre Dame's had no players opt out. The college football playoff starts Friday. JC, we got the Gasparilla Bowl on Friday. We're going to join the Indiana Notre Dame game probably about halfway through the first quarter after Steve's post-game show. And then we've got a triple header on Saturday.
Wow.
I'm going to go out on a limb.
Wow.
And say those 4 games are going to be the 4 highest rated games of the year, JC.
I agree.
And JC, I'm going to make a prediction. The transfer portal is not going to ruin the opening weekend of college football.
And no, it's not. And those who, shouted, fire in the theater were just wrong again. Everybody seems to overreact to so many things in college football, and let the coaches have to earn the money once in a while. And I like the idea of some of these coaches pouring back money into the program like Brian Kelly and like some of the others do. And I don't think it's a big deal. Now, Seth, we talked about this massive day on Saturday with our triple header, and I'm trying to pull up. I saw the television lineup for all of you couch potatoes out there like myself on Saturdays during this time of year. Do you realize what we have on Saturday? And of course, you went down the radio lineup, but dear God, it is so good. It is so good. How about let's start it off with 12 o'clock Penn State and SMU, 1 o'clock the Chiefs and the Texans for all you NFL fans that don't care about Penn State and SMU, and there's quite a few of those. Then we have Texas and Clemson. That'll get big numbers. Then at 4:30, the Ravens and Steelers. And then you've got Ohio State, Tennessee, and then basketball throughout the day. It's just heaven. This is like nirvana. This is it. There is nothing you can do better. That's why it is imperative. It is imperative that you have minimum three televisions in your living room in every household in America. At least 3, and maybe 4 more throughout the assorted rooms in your house. And if you only have 1 extra room, put another 2 in that one. So this is just what you got to do nowadays. That's just the way it is.
Well, and I, going to overstate it here a little bit, but Saturday has the potential to be the singular best sporting day of the year.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? JC, what you just said. Yeah. I mean, you've got starting Friday night with Notre Dame, Indiana, and then Saturday, just you mentioned, like, I was trying to put together our lineup for Saturday. It's like, okay, we got the Gator basketball game that tips off at noon against UNF. And then playoff. Then we circle back to Sunday, in which we do NFL Bucks or Sunday night against the Cowboys.
They're hot.
I think we're carrying, JC, I looked at it at the station alone, starting Friday through January 2nd. I think we're carrying something like 32 games in 16 days.
That's 2 a day.
32 and 14, I think it is. That's 32 and 14.
Wow. Well, that's a public service for all of those who can't get in front of a television or who want to turn the volume down on the TV for whatever reason. And radio is so vital to our lives in sports. It is the most important thing sometimes when TVs are not available. I think it is. You can stream nowadays on your phone. I get that. But the kids hate running their batteries down to 10%. They go nuts and charge it when it goes to 70%. So, I mean, radio serves a purpose for all the truckers moving America's goods and services. And it's just fantastic that you can now stream all of this and go on. What is the app we would use on WRUF to get these games in case we're out of the listening area?
You could do that. We got GeoFence since we're owned by the university. It's WRUF radio app. All you got to do is say, I would do like this. Hey, Alexa, play ESPN Gainesville. And
there it is. And so if you're in Louisiana, right, if you're in Louisiana after a hard night at the Harrah's Casino in New Orleans and you're driving back on the boring-ass I-10, you go to that WRUF app and you plug it into your system in the car, and you are set for 10 hours on your way down I-10. That's
there you go, baby. I do have this, which is good. Through all of this, we've had an interesting 2024. Think about where we were just 2 months ago, where with the basketball program, things have died down a little bit as this investigation continues. But what happened with Billy Napier, and it worked. I look back with baseball and softball going to the Final Three, JC, volleyball making another deep run. Yeah. I brought this up a couple weeks ago when I, filled in. If you're going to blame Scott Strickland for things, fine, but doesn't he deserve credit for things too? And JC, I went through and looked. He's had the most successful athletic season in 2024 than any other AD in the SEC. Yeah. Now, you didn't hire all those guys. No, but a lot of you wanted Sully fired and he didn't fire him. A lot of you wanted Napier fired after A&M and he didn't fire him. Sometimes the best move is no move.
Listen, I have to admit, I was one of those guys ready to jump off the boat. In fact, I did. I had said I had enough after the A&M game, and I think I was in the majority there. But I think the one thing that changed everything was that Georgia game. Even in a loss, we saw DJ Lagway because, it was Graham Mertz, and rightfully so for a time. But I still say, and I don't know if people will agree with this or not, I'm curious to what they think. I don't think the Gators go 7-5 if Mertz had stayed healthy. I don't think they do. And I don't think they do because DJ Lagway has always been the answer. And nobody was willing to say it early in the year until they had to say it when he got hurt. It's the same thing and almost the same idea we had with Kyle Trask and Felipe Franks. It took an injury for the world to wake up, including the guy in charge. And so those are just the kinds of things that have to happen sometimes to find out what you have. Because these coaches are so stubborn to pull the trigger unless they absolutely have to. And I don't think Graham Mertz would have been replaced. And I don't think the Gators win 7 games with him. And that's not an indictment on Graham Mertz. It's just the way the team played when Lagway was in the lineup, how he elevated everything and everybody on that team. And again, I'm not criticizing my man Graham. He did all he could, and he played his heart out, and he gave up his body for this program. And he is a very loyal Gator, and everybody should love him. But I'm simply saying an opinion that I do not see the Gators blowing out LSU, beating Ole Miss, and finishing the season at 7-5 if he had stayed healthy. I think DJ Lagway is the biggest reason why, and I think going forward, DJ Lagway is the only reason the Gators can expect to hopefully win 9 or 10 games next year if they stay healthy. That's it.
True. You're right. He provided a spark, and that cannot – there's certain things that – I can't point to why it works. It just works. Like when the Cowboys, Drew Bledsoe wasn't working, so they came with Tony Romo and it worked. The Chiefs, Alex Smith was going 10-6 every year, JC. Every year. Drafted Patrick Mahomes because it's like, okay, you're nice. I think you go back and you look at Graham Mertz. I think if he'd have been healthy, they'd have beat Tennessee. But they wouldn't have won those other games. You're right. There's certain people. It's like this, JC. Certain teams are built when it's rainy and nasty and muddy in Chicago. It's tough to build Super Bowl champions in cold weather cities like Chicago and even at this time in Buffalo, unless you have a dynamic, fantastic quarterback. Well, that's tough to do in cold weather. The Bills have done it with Josh Allen, but you can't build like you did in the 80s and 70s. Like, we're going to run the ball and we're going to control the clock. No, you still need the dynamic quarterback to win. Yeah. And that's what they've got. So that it worked. Yeah. And what do you know, Dan? I think they beat Tennessee. If he doesn't get hurt, then Lagway would have taken over eventually. Yeah, and Billy nursed him along. And until it was time to take. Well, it wasn't time to take the training wheels off. He had no choice. You had to take a choice.
I mean, his job was on the line essentially, regardless of what Scott Strickland said, because everybody's trying to convince me that they had the money ready to pay out. I don't know. But all I can tell you is that the team played differently. And if you didn't see that, you didn't watch it. And if you didn't watch it, then you can't really make an opinion on it, I don't think. So I see that's the biggest reason for the success Florida had. And the Georgia game, I think, woke people up to thinking to themselves, damn, we may have actually won that game if he stays healthy in that game. And even without some of the receivers he had, and even without some of the players, he was doing it. And he was keeping the team. The defense seemed to just have a completely different mindset and attitude And I think it had to do with the fact that the offense was different. The leadership was different. And again, I'm not indicting Graham Mertz. I'm saying he's different than DJ Lagway, and he is. And DJ Lagway, that's the reason why you guys play better, in my opinion. I just think that's a lot to do with it. I mean, I'm just a guy watching this stuff, but it's pretty obvious to me.
Yeah. The lead singer of the band is important. PodUp with Matthews.
Van Halen was not Van Halen with Sammy Hagar. They were not. That was not Van Halen. It's only Van Halen with David Lee Roth, and that's it. Period.
But you will agree that Metallica got better. I
didn't follow Metallica. That's your world. I didn't follow. You know them. I don't know them. I'm just an old '80s Van Halen.
When they had and then who else? Come on, Seth. Oh, geez. Go back. You just had it in your head. What band got better? Oh, AC/DC.
Oh, yeah, right. Angus Young. Well, he was a guitar player.
Yeah.
That's the guy that's That's it. That's exactly it.
Matthews in the morning, brought to you by Silverback Concrete, building firm foundations for generations. You stand on it. We stand by it. And, of course, Miapa Latin Cafe. Discover the ultimate Cuban culinary experience at Miapa Latin Cafe. 5 locations. Gainesville, Alachua. You've never far from the best Cuban food north of Miami.
That's the truth.
Miapa Latin Cafe. All right.
Seth, if you don't, I got to tell you, what would you do? Hard Rock sponsors us. God bless Hard. And I'm a big Hard Rocker. Okay, I love me some Hard Rock. Here is your choice, and I don't know. Are we getting close to a break? Anyway, This is your choice. Think about it. 3-bet parlay. Would you take the dogs to win SMU, Tennessee, and Clemson plus 5,000? That's 50-1. Or do
SMU, Tennessee, Clemson?
Okay. Or do you take Texas, Penn State, Ohio State, all in parlays? That's even money. So again, you get the favorites at even money. You get the underdogs parlayed together at 50-1. Would you sprinkle on some underdogs there, brother?
So I need SMU to win in 20-degree weather.
And you need Clemson to somehow pull it off with Maffa and those guys. Okay.
I don't know what Texas is, JC. That's the one
nobody does. And then you got Tennessee. I think that's possible at Ohio State.
Yeah, that's possible. The one that's the most likely of those, I think, is Tennessee. The least likely one. I mean, SMU does a nice job running it, but look what Penn State. I mean, they went toe-to-toe with Oregon, who I think is the best team in the country. I don't know. I don't think it's close, really. I think Oregon's probably 6 to 8 points better than everybody else. I don't know how SMU is going to score 35 points. If Clemson's hanging a 30 burger on them, then Penn State's going to do the same thing. So I think the eyes bigger than my mouth is the underdog bet, but the safe one's your other one. That's pretty good, though. There's some other ones. And you know what we're going to do? I know you have your picks on Friday. I'm going to do this next. We're going to go through the college football playoffs. I'm going to give you the spreads, and I want you to tell me who's going to win. Boom. All right? That's what we're doing next. Seth Harp in for the QB. JC here on this Wednesday, the 18th of December edition of PodUp Matthews in the morning.
I love.
Our premium sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Crime Prevention Security System, Titan MRI, Meldon Law, QC Kinetics, Dave & Buster's, UF Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute, JF Hayden Craft Liqueurs, Bishop's Pitmaster Barbecue, Florida Cracker Kitchen, Los Linderos Tequila. Gridiron sponsors are Baker Sporting Goods, Cogent Bank, Comfort Temp, Electronics World, Florida Victorious, Gallo Car Wash, Miapa Latin Cafe, Peachland Dental, Quality Plumbing, Ruse Ogre State Farm, Silverback Concrete, 84 Lumber, Big Mills Cheesesteak, Celebrate Primary Care, Dowling Signs, Gator Bait Media, Gator Dominoes, Ironwood Golf Course, Okido America, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, UF Bookstores, Nest and Wow, MG&A Wealth Management. Watch and listen to us live on Facebook and YouTube. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. To become a sponsor, call my man Freddie at 352-284-3733.
Unleash the Inferno.
With time running out, the head ball coach, Steve Spurrier, shares a play to score the perfect last-minute Christmas gift.
Spurrier's Gridiron gift cards are on sale for 20% off between December 17 and December 24. You can go to spurriers.com and order a digital card or stop by my restaurant in Celebration Point and pick some up today. Use the code GC20 and get 20% off. That's right, 20% off gift cards with code GC20.
PodUp with Matthews in the morning. Yeah, don't adjust your screen. This is Seth Harp in for the QB today. Of course, JC on this Wednesday edition, 18th day of December 2024. PodUp with Matthews in the morning. Brought to you in part by Florida Victorious. Proud NAL partner of the Florida Gators. Joined today. Help make Florida victorious. You want to be a part of the show. Several ways to do it, courtesy of Meldon Law. Facebook Live, fire off your questions. Meldon Law, the only official injury and a law firm accident partner of the Florida Gators. YouTube questions, JC's got those handled for you, courtesy of Quality Plumbing. Residential and commercial plumbing services, emergency repair since 1984. That's 40 years. Their name says it all. And on top of that, we, of course, are broadcasting live from the Crime Prevention System Security Home System Studios, large enough to serve you and, of course, small enough to care. Also, I need to thank a couple people on here, too. JC, I'm going to start to do this. I hand out my fan of the week, and I'm trying to decide if I want to go with Reggie. I'm going to go Reggie Joseph Proenza and Reggie Canenzo, the Italian connection, my number one fans of the week. They're big fans of me. Seth, can you come to our Star Wars themed birthday party? I can't. I'm going to be flying, so I cannot come to your Stormtrooper Star Wars themed birthday party. But I will be there in spirit. So thank you, gentlemen. It's always nice to be a fan. All right. Let's see here. College football playoff. We're here. I grew up in Northern Indiana.
Yes.
I've got family that went to Notre Dame. My mom went to Purdue. My brother-in-law went to Indiana. So I've got this holy trinity. I'm the one, of course, the misfit that left the state and went up to the mitten and went into Michigan. But I wanted to go to this game. The tickets were going for $1,200. Last check, Penn State SMU were $81. JC, I don't make enough money to be blowing $2,500 to sit in 22-degree weather on Friday.
Credit cards are for. That's what credit cards are for, Seth. Don't take your financial advice from me, Seth Harp. But sure. That's what credit cards are for, brother.
American Express and Visa are very excited to hear that from you, but I know better. So I ask you this. We start to look at these things, and before we get to the games, there's one concern that I had about this. Okay, here I am, right? I'm looking to buy these tickets. I know that $1,200 a pop. I first of all, I can't go because we have the Florida game here. I already got a pair of Sugar Bowl tickets because if Notre Dame wins, they're going to play Jordan at Sugar Bowl.
Absolutely.
$170 each.
Fair.
They're $170 each.
Fair.
Because Georgia fans are waiting.
That's right.
Georgia fans are like, I'm going to wait till the semifinals in January. I can't buy tickets to the Sugar Bowl and the Orange Bowl and the championship game. JC, do you see this being a problem where not the opening rounds, because they're going to be in stadiums just like the NFL hosting. Do you see the second round being a problem on the first weekend in January because people are going to be saving their money, quote unquote, hedging their bets to the semifinals and the finals?
I've always
$175 Sugar Bowl tickets.
I've always complained about the practicality of it all because when Alabama was making the runs through this or that, it costs so much damn money to go here or there. And I'm not complaining about it. It's just that's the reality. It's not practical to the typical fan. If Georgia plays in the quarterfinals, they then have to win that, then go win in the semifinal, and then go win in the final. That's 3 spots you're asking fans to go to in different locations within a month. It's not real, and that's why different fans go to different games, and some wait for a win or some just take advantage of the game at hand. But it is it's tough, but it's better than what I think we had in the past. And listen, here's the way I look at the seedings, because everybody made a big stink about how it was seeded, and I do agree with it to a certain extent. But television controls this, Seth. You understand this as a media guy and a programmer. TV is has a right and a say in this because they're the ones who are paying for it. It's like when your daughter's getting married, you get to put the tables where you want to, and you get to put the chairs wherever you want to, and you get to tell people where they're sitting and so on and so forth. And that's why we had Ohio State and Tennessee as the 8 and 9, and Oregon as the 1, because they want that Rose Bowl to have Oregon and Ohio State in the very worst way. And they wouldn't mind seeing Tennessee people travel out to Pasadena, just like Alabama fans did, to go watch the Rose Bowl because, well, I've never been to the Rose Bowl as a Tennessee fan. So, of course, I'm going to go. And Oregon is absolutely slated for that. So that's why that seating worked out that way. And who doesn't want to see the Battle of Indiana between the Hoosiers and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish? They haven't played in 32 years, and the schools are within 200 miles of each other or something. So, I mean, of course, you would love to have that happen. And SMU, listen, they lost 2 games. They deserve to go. They won the regular season in the ACC. They did. And they were better than Clemson throughout the year. They were. And if you play it again, I would bet on SMU with a lot of money to beat Clemson. So I just think that this is about making the matchups tenable for television and somewhat hospitable to fans, because Indiana fans can now go to Notre Dame. They wouldn't have been able to perhaps go to Texas. They would have, but that would have been a lot more difficult for them. So this is the way it works, and I'm okay with it. I think these matchups are great. Getting into that, you've got Indiana getting 7 in the snow, and I had flight tickets to go to South Bend this weekend because I thought Alabama was going to make it until SMU had that second half, and I'm not bitter about it at all because Alabama didn't do enough apparently. Okay, but Indiana's getting 7. What I really like on this game, Seth, is the under 51 in those elements with Notre Dame's defense. And yes, Southern Cal scored a lot, but that was out in LA. This is a different environment and a different team. They haven't played in 3 weeks. I think they're going to come out very conservative. You're not going to see fireworks, and you want to go under this 51 number, I think, with Notre Dame.
Yep. And you know what? I was sitting there looking at that, JC. I think this thing's got like 27-17 written all over it.
Yeah, 30-20, something like that.
Yep. I think it does. And you know, and Notre Dame's still one of those teams that it's tough to put a finger on the pulse of it. But JC, they've crushed everybody.
They've crushed everybody.
I mean, and it's like, well, they didn't play. Well, they beat Army by 40, and I know
they
beat them. And they
beat Navy by 40.
They punished teams in the ACC that other teams they beat.
No, they deserve. Listen,
Seth,
if it was a 4-team playoff, they'd beat one of the 4. They would. If we had last year's 4 teams, they would be one of the 4. They would. So.
And it's one of those things too. It's like, well, they don't belong. Well, then who are you going to put in? All of a sudden, you guys got, look, the SEC is the best conference. It's been that way. The Big Ten's pretty darn good this year too. And only if we had a playoff to determine that. So, I mean, what do you know? So here we go. PodUp, we're going to go through the other spreads. Greg says Seth is number 1 with truckers. Only if the truck stops, Greg. Only if the truck stops. PodUp with Matthews in the morning is brought to you in part by Electronics World, integration and design specialist for smart home automation and entertainment, affordable local installation service and support. Electronicsworld.net. John Jett writing in. Seth, are you the replacement fit for Steve Russell? No, John, it's actually going to be former Gator running back Etienne. He's going to be hosting from noon to 2 every single day, along with Todd Grantham, right? The Todd Grantham and Etienne show from noon to 2 every single day. I was trying to think of, JC, who do I tell people is going to fill in at noon that would bother the Gator fans the most? And I think Grantham.
No, that one went over my head for a minute. I didn't. Okay, now I'm with you, buddy. I'm with you. I'm trying to read these wonderful YouTubers.
Grantham ETN show.
JC, this is Van Der. Thank you, Van. Very nice. No, I think you're just going to have to wait and see what Seth does. Let's just see what they do.
Oh, I can tell you this.
Is Randy still running that place too?
Yeah. We're still, and look, it's one of these things that as we go into, guys, I keep trying to reiterate this. We've got, once April hits, we've got Rays baseball afternoon games at 1 and 4 all the time, or 1 o'clock all the time. We have, so I went through and looked ahead at the softball schedule. We got like 4 double headers in February that blow it. We're not going to bring in a host to do 1 day a week. We're going to wait. And if it's summer, guys, we got too many games going on, too much stuff going on.
As long as something before football, I don't think you have to worry about it.
Yeah, guys, hey man, listen,
Maybe I'll do it for free, Seth. You want me to just come out there and just do it for free? You don't have to pay me. You'd love that, wouldn't you? But
Well,
no, I mean, you got all summer, dude. I
I'm
mean,
gonna make you guys happy, right? We got to find the right guy.
yeah.
Well, here's the thing too, JC. Nobody won the Mega Millions last night, so if I hit it on Friday, it's gonna be somebody else's problem.
You're still throwing money at that, eh? Well, I got. How about this idea? How about let's take the under in Penn State. I mean, the under in Indiana, and then on SMU and Penn State. I mean, you get paid like right then after the game. You don't have to wait till Saturday night.
8.5, right?
8.5 is a big number. And this is another, and I hate unders. I always used to say angry people bet unders, but 54? I don't think so. I think Penn State's defense is capable. I think they will score plenty of points. And this is a 30-20 game with SMU in the cold weather. I think it's another under.
Yeah. So you say Penn State wins and they cover?
Yeah, -8.5 under. That's kind of a tough combo to get because typically you want to take an underdog getting points, knowing that if you score this certain amount of points with the points, then you can't lose both bets. You break even. But
one of these teams that got beat at the end of the year, Ohio State, Penn State, SMU. Well, one of them's got to win here. One of them's going to win, and one of them's going to win big. I just, it's always.
I like Penn State winning big instead of Notre Dame winning big.
Yeah, I think.
But I could be wrong. SMU is no joke, man. They can score, but I just don't know if they're ready for this. I mean, maybe they are. Maybe they are. Listen, don't doubt them. They came back.
What did you say? Your over-under was 54? Because I'm thinking 31-21 is what my.
Yeah, well, that's an under. That's an under all day long. That's an under, and 54 is a lot of points. Then on after that, we got the game. I think this is the game I've probably been looking forward to the most, even though Tennessee and Ohio State is probably right there with it, is Clemson. Clemson has that pedigree, but they sucked this year, okay? They sucked. They lost 3 games, 2 games at home. Screw Clemson. I think Texas, and we all have admitted that nobody knows who they are. Tell me why they're 12-point favorites. If nobody knows what they are, why in the hell are they laying 12 points? I'll tell you who they are. They are a team with a salty, nasty, and aggressive professional NFL-type defense. And they've got a play caller who, if the quarterback doesn't screw up, can dial up anything against anybody, including Clemson's defense. I don't know about 12. That's an awful lot. You're asking for a lot. But if Clemson doesn't have Maffa is their key. He's the running back. If he does not play, they will cover. Texas covers. If Maffa plays, you go with Clemson and take those points and lose by 10 and be happy.
This is the one of all of them that I have no idea. I mean,
Maffa. Look, Clemson cannot win without a running game. They cannot win if they don't run the ball on that defense. There is zero chance they're winning that game, dude, if they can't run the football.
I can see this game, JC, being 14-3 going into the fourth quarter. Really? I mean, I just don't. When
that's another under. You're saying under 50.
No, I think the smart bet is something like 28-14. 28-14 Texas. I think that's like the smart, logical. So I'll take Texas to cover. It's a Clemson team that lost to South Carolina. I don't know what SMU is. Dabo is playing with a chip on his shoulder, but let's face it, Texas got embarrassed. And Texas manhood's been questioned. The SEC, you don't play anybody. Clemson's just getting back rubs the last 7 to 10 days, right? It's like, oh man, look what they did. Oh my gosh. Dabo finds a way. Isn't he great? JC, if somebody compliments how good you look and how fantastic you look and you're gaining a pound every week and you haven't really done anything, and then all of a sudden you're like, my clothes don't fit, but everybody says I look fantastic. It's a problem, right? So that's what I look at Clemson as. And I say Texas beats them in Texas coverage. And when I say 28-14, that would get me over the 52. No, it would be under. No, I'll take under.
But you'd also cover that number. So
under cover.
I think Clemson has a world of problems scoring on Texas.
And I'll tell you this last one. Yeah.
Oh, this one here, man. I don't know about what kind of mindset Ohio State has, but I will tell you this. If they can't get over the fact that they lost to an average team, the greatest rival they ever had, in 2 weeks, then they shouldn't even show up. Just stay home, save us all the time, and just let Tennessee move on down to the Rose Bowl, because Ohio State has an opportunity to win a natty. Screw the Michigan game. Those things matter, but now with the playoffs, they are not the be-all, end-all that they used to be, because you have life. You have life in, when Florida played FSU and lost and then beat the snot out of them, later in a bowl game or something, Sugar Bowl. What was that? Didn't they lose or tie or something in 95? I was there. I don't even remember it. But
Florida State didn't beat them, yeah.
And then beat the hell out of them. So even though Ohio State's not playing Michigan again, they're playing Tennessee, an SEC school, a chance to shut up the people in the South. Tennessee, on the other hand, has an opportunity with this quarterback and that defense to make people think they're legit finally and not just a pretender. So I don't know. I'm going to take the 7.5 and just cross my fingers, I think.
I'll take Tech. I think this game's going to come down to like a field goal touchdown later.
There you go.
I think it's tied. And I'll take Tennessee plus 7.5. I think this thing's at 24-21, 27-24 type of game. And, it'll be interesting to see what happens, JC. If they would lose, if Ohio State would get beat at home, then all of a sudden it's going to be 10 out of 10 on Ryan Day, even though he's 54-10 or 9 or whatever he is as the head coach, and probably even better than that, like 60-9 or whatever he is. I do want to bring this up to everybody, though, that earlier this week that the Chicago Bears were sniffing around on Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame, and it sounded like the Bears were ready to make Marcus Freeman an offer. Notre Dame found out about that
and gave him a contract
and gave him a big extension that makes him, I think, the 5th highest paid coach in college football, something like that. Well, Ryan Day looked over at Marcus Freeman and saw a guy that went to Ohio State, that played at Ohio State, was a 3-year starter at Ohio State. That was what they were going to do, JC. If they moved on from they were going to hire Marcus Freeman.
Right.
They're not going to pay his $60 million buyout now to hire him.
No.
So if Ohio State and it's like, well, who are you going to hire? You hear that a lot, and people, well, anybody's better. Anybody's not a person. Anybody's an idea. So at this point, even if they lose, like, he's in trouble. Okay, who are you going to hire? And the joke was always Bill Belichick. Well, North Carolina did that. So who on earth, Andy Reid? Who are you going to? That's just it. At this point,
I just think it's ridiculous that a guy with that record, who is 1-4 against Michigan, whatever, but I think it's ridiculous that we're even thinking about this, because this guy has got a ridiculously gaudy record of wins and losses and success. And so Ohio State hasn't won a natty since 2014, but they got to the 2020 game. They just ran into a professional team in Alabama, a bunch of pros playing. And you can't cover Devontae Smith with a linebacker. Sorry. No. But they were there. They were there during the COVID year. They were a good damn team. And I still say to this day, they would have easily won the national title if their field goal kicker makes a 20-something yarder, or if Marvin Harrison doesn't get a concussion, because C.J. Stroud and Marvin Harrison were destroying and embarrassing the Georgia Bulldogs. They were just embarrassing the Georgia Bulldogs. They had them by 18 in the second half. They win that game, they would have blown out TCU, just like Georgia did, and they would have been the national champions that year. But those are all ifs and buts and all that. But let's be honest, it was a fluke. It was a fluke that Ohio State lost to Georgia in that playoff game. It was a fluke, or in that semifinal game. It was a fluke, and they were better than Georgia that day, in my opinion. And if Marvin Harrison doesn't get a concussion, he's still scoring touchdowns to this day. And if their field goal kicker wasn't so pathetically bad and makes an extra point, basically, they would have won the game. So you're gonna blame Ryan Day for that? You can't do it, because if Ryan Day wins the natty and beats TCU by 60 like he would have with C.J. Stroud, then we don't even have these conversations about Ryan Day. He is there for life. So let's just forget about this Ryan Day BS. I talked to a friend in Tallahassee who's the biggest Buckeye fan I know, and I know a lot of them. And he says Ryan Day is fine. There's nothing wrong with Ryan Day. So he's having a rough time with Michigan. Okay, he's 1-4. I'll bet you if he stays there another 10 years, he'll get that record closer to 500 at some point.
Yeah. And you're right.
It's too good a rivalry.
The dynamics have changed. And I remember when Deion joined the Cowboys and Barry Switzer, and they had that amazing team. When of course they got rid of Jimmy, but they had so much damn talent they couldn't lose. That year they won the Super Bowl over the Steelers. The Cowboys were something like 13-3. 2 of their losses were the 4-12 Washington, formerly known as the Redskins.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, JC, I brought that up just to bring it up. Nobody remembers that they lost to DC that year. That's their big rival. So yeah, and the Chiefs lost to the Raiders last year at home on Christmas.
NFL, you know how NFL is with these. They play twice every year. But the Ohio State Michigan game is rare. It's different, but it's such a good rivalry that at some point you're not going to have a team run off 10 straight wins. You might, but I don't think you will. The teams are too close today, and Ryan Day will beat Michigan again one day. But I think if he wins the national championship this year, nobody's going to even talk about it. And Ohio State has a chance. They have a chance. Look, they can beat Oregon. It just comes down to Will Howard, basically. So, I mean, their offensive line's banged up. Okay, everybody's banged up this time of year.
Yeah, and again, if Ohio State, beats Michigan, and they lost to Oregon late out at Oregon, you're talking about the number one team in the country. I know those are two ifs, and I give you one if, but not two. But again, it's a good football team. It's a top 5 football team. They just struggle with that one individual team. So you're right. It'll be interesting to see how the narrative changes. And I've even heard people sit there and say, Ohio State fans, people that I know, I hope we get beat so we can fire Ryan Day. Because all I want to do is win the
BS.
The last thing I want to do is win the national championship and have him around. It's like, that's absurd. You're right. PodUp with Matthews in the morning, a service of Florida Cracker Kitchen. Great food and Southern hospitality in the center of the universe. Beautiful Brooksville, Florida. FloridaCracker.com. Also, PodUp with Matthews in the morning, a service of Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and the surrounding areas, and Campus USA Credit Union. Today Sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power in your work and your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. JC, on this date in 1933. So what would that be? 91 years ago? No, my man, 89. Jesus, Seth. Not that old. 89 years ago, Chicago Bears win the first ever NFL championship. 89 years ago today. Wow. The NFL championship took place before Christmas. And they beat the New York Giants 23-21. Bronco Nagurski with the big score to end that one. So there you go, JC. 89 years ago, the first NFL championship this day in sports, brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. So there we go, baby. There we go. Final thoughts, I guess, as we put a bow on this thing, that Florida basketball, questions? There weren't any questions, but they're legit. Expect this team. I think you're thinking 28-5. I think something like that at the end of the year. I think that's fair. If this team has more than 5 losses entering SEC Conference Championship week, then something went south during the year. So I don't you agree? I think 25, 29-4.
I do think conference play is a whole different animal, but this team's good enough to withstand it. They've got depth, they've got height, they've got length, they've got athleticism, and if the coach stays, if everything stays cool with him, there's the sky's the limit. I mean, really is. This conference is damn good, though. And you're not going to get penalized by playing in a tough conference when it comes down to seeding time, because that's really all we're doing until March is playing for seeding, right? We're playing for seeding. Okay, so I went on the SEC championship. Well, okay. No, you want to win the NCAA tournament. And that comes down to a lot of times seeding and where you're at and how easy your path is and so on and so forth, how you bracket it. The season is meant to give you the seed that you hopefully will have as an advantage to get you through the tournament. And that's why we do it until March. That's it.
Yeah. And again, enjoy. And I guess my advice to Gator fans is enjoy it. Enjoy the season. So many times.
Have a great time.
Nobody enjoys the moment anymore. And like the Gasparilla Bowl, Tulane, enjoy that. Enjoy Friday. It's like, we should be playing a better team. Maybe, possibly. A month ago, you said your coach sucked and you wanted him fired, and Napier needed to go and Strickland needed to go. Now we're sitting there shaking our fists at the sky saying, we deserve to play a top 20 team. So I might as well get my prediction in. I think they cover it. JC, it's the largest spread of any bowl game.
Yeah, they're covered. Tulane's a mess. They'll have a great time. People should have a good time in Tampa, win 8 games, and look forward to spring. And in the meantime, you've got spring sports that are great, and enjoy those. Have a good summer. Go to the beach, get tanned up, and ready for football, baby.
I say Florida covers. I say Gators 31, Green Wave 14.
I'm going 30. Yeah, 30. They'll be in the 30s, and Tulane will be in the low teens. I agree.
Yeah. So they cover. There you go. I know you got still Friday, right, with the QB.
Okay, I'll be here Friday. Sure will. Yep. We'll go through some of this again, but this was an exhilarating hour, I'd say.
Yeah, it was good. And there we go. So there you go. My predictions. I've got my Gator hat on. I am Seth Claus. I am, giving presents to Gator Nation. It's my pleasure to be there for you. I know I am the #1 choice for Gator fans across the country, the king of Gator sports. And you are all welcome for all of that. It's a gift. I can't help it. So there you go.
It's not, I mean,
Before we go, Greg says, totally agree about Van Halen. Much better with Dr. Dave, Jason.
I mean, is there any doubt? I mean, how many albums did they make that went platinum? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So, I'm glad we got that cleared up.